There will come a day when the ground beneath your feet feels like it has shattered, and all you can hear is the echo of your own breaking. But I promise you this, what breaks you today can build you tomorrow if you dare to stand tall in the ruins. There are moments in life when everything you have carefully built, your dreams, your plans, your peace, crumbles without warning. The call you didn't expect comes. The person you trusted walks away. The health you relied on falters. And suddenly you are left standing in the middle of chaos, asking yourself, how do I survive this storm? Stay with me, because what I share with you today may not only help you survive, but help you rise stronger than you ever believed you could. There is a temptation when life collapses to act as if nothing has happened. We hide our wounds beneath forced smiles, telling the world we are fine while inside we are crumbling. We wear masks of strength, afraid that if we let the truth spill out, we will appear weak or fragile. But real strength has never been about denial. Real strength is born in the honest acknowledgement of pain. To stay strong when life falls apart, you must first dare to admit that it hurts. When the storm hits, it is natural to want to run, to bury yourself in distractions, in noise, in busyness that keeps you from feeling the depth of your sorrow. Some people drown their pain in endless work, others in empty pleasures, others in silence so thick it suffocates. But the truth is this, pain ignored is pain that festers. What we refuse to face will grow in the dark, and one day it will demand to be heard. To acknowledge the pain is not to surrender. It is to step into the only place where healing can begin. There is courage in admitting, this broke me, this hurt me, this is not what I wanted. Those words are not admissions of weakness. They are declarations of honesty. And honesty, no matter how heavy it feels, is always the first step toward rising again. Think of the ground after a wildfire. The flames scorch, the trees fall, the soil is left raw. But that raw soil is where new life begins to grow. If you deny that the fire ever happened, you cannot plant, you cannot rebuild, you cannot heal. You must look at the ashes and say, this is where I start again. Do not let anyone convince you that tears are a disgrace. Tears are sacred. They are the release of emotions too heavy for the body to carry. They are the washing of the soul, the way your spirit makes room for light again. If you have ever sat in the quiet of your own room with tears streaming down your face, know that those tears were not a sign of weakness, but of humanity. They are proof that you loved, that you cared, that you hoped. Only hearts that are alive can ache, and only souls that are strong enough to feel deeply will know the sharpness of pain. The bravest thing you can do when life falls apart is to sit with your sorrow instead of fleeing from it, to let yourself feel the ache, the emptiness, the longing for what was lost. Because in that stillness, in that raw place where nothing makes sense, you are stripped of all illusions. You come face to face with yourself. And in that encounter, you discover truths about your strength that you could not see when everything was comfortable. When you acknowledge your pain, you give it a name. And when you name it, you take away its power to haunt you in the shadows. Silence gives pain strength, but voice gives it boundaries. It is no longer a shapeless monster lurking in the corners of your mind. It is something you can face, something you can work through, something you can eventually release. Think of a wound on the skin. If ignored, if left covered without cleaning, it grows infected. But if you uncover it, wash it, tend to it, it begins to heal. The same is true of emotional wounds. They need air, they need light, they need care. Pretending the wound isn't there does not erase it, it deepens it. Acknowledging it, however painful, begins the process of restoration. And let me remind you, acknowledging pain does not mean staying trapped in it. There is a difference between facing your sorrow and surrendering to it. One is courage, the other is despair. To acknowledge pain is to say, this is real, but it will not define me forever. This is heavy, but it will not bury me. This is my wound, but it will also become my wisdom. Every scar tells a story, and the story is not of defeat, but of survival. Some of the strongest souls you will ever meet are not those who never fell, but those who fell and dared to admit that they were broken. People who stood in the rubble of their lives and said, I hurt, but I will rise. That admission is not weakness. It is the seed of unshakable resilience. You cannot rise from what you refuse to face, but when you face it, when you allow yourself to feel the full depth of the hurt, you also unlock the full measure of your healing. So if today you are carrying pain, if today you feel like life has stripped you bare, do not rush past your sorrow. Sit with it, speak it, cry it out, write it down, pray it aloud. Do whatever you must to bring it into the light, because once it is in the light, it begins to lose its power to destroy you. The world may tell you to be strong by hiding your wounds, but real strength says, I will show up with my wounds and still keep going. You are not less because you are hurting. You are not broken beyond repair because you feel deeply. You are not weak because you cry. You are alive, and life is not neat, not tidy, not without its tears. The heart that has never been broken has never truly lived, and the soul that has never known sorrow has never truly grown. So do not run from your pain. Do not silence it. Do not bury it. Stand in it. Face it. Name it. Let it teach you what it came to teach. And when the lesson has been learned, when the tears have done their cleansing work, when your spirit has had its time to breathe, you will discover that you are not only stronger than the pain, you are greater because of it. There is a moment after loss when the world feels empty, when everything familiar has been stripped away, and you stand in front of the mirror wondering who you are now. The house is quieter. The phone no longer rings with the voice you once knew. The job title that gave you status no longer follows your name. And you ask yourself, if I am no longer who I was with them or with that, then who am I? That is one of the hardest questions life will ever whisper into your soul. But it is also one of the most important ones because the answer carries the power to restore your strength when everything else has fallen. We live in a world that constantly tells us to define ourselves by what we own, who we are connected to, what we achieve, and how the world sees us. From childhood, we are handed labels: student, employee, parent, spouse, leader, friend, and we wear those labels until they feel like our skin. But the day life tears one away, the skin feels raw and bare, and we forget that beneath every label there has always been a deeper identity, one untouched by loss. You are not only your titles, you are not only your relationships, you are not only your possessions, you are something eternal, something unshakable, and when life strips away the external, it is inviting you to rediscover the internal, to remember the essence of who you are, even without the things you once leaned on to define you. Think of the tree in winter. When the leaves fall, when the branches look bare, some may say the tree has lost its beauty, that it is nothing but skeleton and bark. But within the tree, life still pulses. Roots still stretch deep, unseen beneath the soil, drawing strength from the earth. The tree is no less alive, no less powerful, because its leaves are gone. In fact, the winter is where the tree gathers its strength to bloom again. And so it is with you. When you lose something or someone dear, it does not mean that you are empty. It does not mean that you are less. It means you are being invited to go inward, to the roots of your soul, to remember who you were before titles, before attachments, before possessions. You were enough before, and you are enough now. It is easy to forget this truth. When relationships end, you may believe that your worth ended with them. When jobs are lost, you may believe that your value disappeared with the paycheck. When circumstances change, you may believe that your identity was tied to that season alone. But who you are is greater than all of that. Who you are cannot be taken by what leaves. Who you are is not diminished by what life removes. There is a core within you, call it soul, call it spirit, call it essence, that remains untouched no matter what storms come. That core is where your true strength lives. And when you learn to rest in that place, you discover that you are never truly lost, even when the world tells you that you are. I want you to picture yourself as a diamond. When it sits in the earth covered in dust and dirt, the diamond is still a diamond. When it is polished and placed in a crown, it is still the same diamond. Its value does not change because of where it rests or what surrounds it. It remains priceless by nature, and so do you. Whether loved or abandoned, employed or unemployed, celebrated or overlooked, you are still worthy, still valuable, still whole. Life has a way of forcing us to peel back the layers we thought made us who we are, only to reveal that those were never the foundation. The foundation is deeper. The foundation is that eternal light inside you, the part of you that no circumstance can touch. When you remember that, you reclaim your power. You stop defining yourself by what walked away and begin to define yourself by what has always stayed, the unbreakable self within. Some of the greatest transformations happen in the moments when we are stripped of everything we thought we could not live without, because it is then, in that silence, that you hear your own voice clearly again. The voice that says, I am still here. I am still me. I am more than what I lost. That realization is not easy, but it is liberating. It allows you to rise not tied to the past, but rooted in your eternal worth. Do not believe the lie that loss makes you less. It may make life harder, but it does not make you smaller. If anything, it expands you, because when you realize that you can survive without what you thought was essential, you grow deeper, wiser, and freer. You stop clinging to things as your definition and start holding them as blessings, wonderful when they are present, but not the sum of your identity when they are gone. Remember who you were before the heartbreak, and remember who you are after it. Remember who you were before the job title and who you remain without it. Remember who you were before life tried to label you and who you still are when those labels fall away. You were born enough, and nothing that leaves can change that truth. So when the weight of loss presses against your chest, whisper to yourself, I am still here, I am still whole, I am still me. And in that remembrance, strength will return, not because the pain disappears, but because you have remembered the unshakable foundation of your being. There are nights so long that dawn feels like a rumor. There are moments so heavy that breathing feels like a burden. When life falls apart, when the things you trusted collapse before your eyes, you find yourself reaching for something to hold on to. And often, the only thing left to grasp is faith. Not the kind of faith that comes with certainty, not the kind that roars with confidence, but the fragile faith that trembles in your hands. The quiet, uncertain, almost breaking faith that whispers, maybe, just maybe, tomorrow will be better. Many people believe that faith must always be strong, unshakable, and absolute. But that is not the truth. Faith is not measured by how loud it shouts, but by how faithfully it endures, even in its trembling. The smallest seed of faith has moved mountains before. The faintest candle of faith has broken the deepest darkness. And when your life feels shattered, even trembling faith is enough to keep you standing. Faith does not erase pain. It does not promise you an escape from hardship. Faith does not mean the storm will pass quickly or that the fire will not burn. Faith means that in the midst of the storm, you choose to believe there is still a sky beyond the clouds, that in the middle of the fire, you choose to believe there is still life beyond the ashes. Faith is not the absence of fear, it is the courage to walk forward despite fear. When everything collapses, you may feel abandoned. You may look at the wreckage and wonder if anything beyond yourself is listening, if anything greater still cares. But even in that questioning, even in that trembling, faith lives. Because faith is not the denial of doubt. Faith is the decision to keep moving in spite of it. You may pray with shaking hands. You may whisper with a breaking voice. You may walk forward with tears clouding your eyes. And yet every step is an act of faith. Think of a seed buried in the soil. In the darkness, it cannot see the sun. It does not know when or if the light will reach it again. But something inside that seed pushes upward, blindly, slowly, patiently. That is faith. It is not sight. It is trust. It is not certainty. It is movement. Even when you cannot see the way, you lean forward, you keep reaching, you believe that somehow the soil will not bury you forever, but will become the ground from which you grow. Faith, even trembling, gives you something that nothing else can: hope. Hope that the pain will not last forever. Hope that tomorrow can look different from today. Hope that there is a meaning to this madness, a lesson in this loss, a purpose hidden in this pain. And hope, fragile as it may be, is oxygen for the soul. With hope, you can endure nights that would otherwise destroy you. With hope, you can keep walking when every step feels impossible. There is a kind of faith that is bold and loud, but there is another kind that is quiet and persistent. Sometimes strength is not in standing tall, but in kneeling low. Sometimes it is not in shouting affirmations, but in whispering prayers through tears. Sometimes it is not in declaring certainty, but in admitting, I don't know how, but I will not give up. That trembling is still strength because it means you are holding on. Do not despise your small faith. Do not belittle the prayers that feel broken, the steps that feel hesitant, the hope that feels fragile. Small faith has carried people through the darkest nights. Small faith has held the hand of grief and walked it into healing. Small faith has seen miracles. You do not need to roar to survive. You only need to whisper and keep whispering until strength returns. When life strips everything away, faith may be the only treasure left in your pocket, and that treasure will be enough. Faith will remind you that endings are not final, that death is not the end of love, that brokenness is not the end of beauty. Faith will remind you that even in the silence you are not alone, that even in the wilderness you are being led, that even in your trembling you are still standing. And here is the wonder of faith. It grows when tested. It deepens when challenged. It expands when stretched. You may feel your faith breaking, but in truth it is rooting itself deeper, because when you hold on in the dark, you learn to trust in a way that daylight never requires. The faith you carry through your tears will be stronger than the faith you carried in your laughter. So if you find yourself trembling, do not shame yourself. Do not think you are weak because your prayers are broken, because your heart is heavy, because your belief wavers. Trembling faith is still faith. The smallest spark can still ignite a fire. The smallest seed can still become a forest. And the smallest faith can still move the mountains in your way. Stand with your trembling. Pray with your trembling. Walk with your trembling. Because even when faith shakes, it is enough to keep you alive, enough to keep you moving, enough to carry you to the day when trembling turns to triumph. When the world around you collapses, it is easy to feel like the mountain in front of you is too tall, too steep, too impossible to climb. You look at the distance between where you are and where you long to be, and the space feels unbearable. The heart whispers, I will never make it. I am too broken. The journey is too long, but strength does not come from leaping to the top of the mountain in a single bound. Strength is born in the quiet discipline of taking one step at a time, even when those steps are small, even when they are shaky, even when they are slow. There is power in small steps, the kind of power that looks unimpressive at first glance, but becomes undeniable when time reveals its work. Think of the raindrop. Alone, a single drop seems insignificant, but together, drop by drop, rain can carve rivers, fill oceans, and reshape landscapes. The same is true with your small acts of courage. They may look like nothing in the moment, but gathered together over time, they transform the course of your life. When your heart is shattered and your spirit weary, do not demand of yourself the impossible. Do not demand that you rebuild the whole house in a single day or heal every wound in a single night. Instead, ask yourself, what is one small step I can take today? That step might be as simple as getting out of bed, as gentle as breathing deeply, as quiet as writing one sentence in a journal, or as brave as making one phone call. It does not have to be dramatic. It does not have to be perfect. It only has to be forward. The greatest transformations are never sudden. They are gradual. A river does not carve a canyon overnight. A seed does not become a tree in a week. Healing does not happen in an instant. But every small step, every drop of water, every beam of light, every act of courage adds up until one day you look back and realize how far you have come. Small steps keep you from being crushed by the weight of the journey. If you stare at the entire mountain, fear will paralyze you. But if you tell yourself just one more step, just one more breath, just one more day, you begin to realize that the impossible is nothing more than a series of small possibles. That is the secret of resilience. Not giant leaps, not sudden victories, but consistent, persistent steps, taken with faith that each one matters. Sometimes we undervalue the small things. We think our progress must be visible, dramatic, worthy of applause. But the truth is, most victories are won in silence. Most strength is built in private. Nobody may see you choosing to rise today. Nobody may applaud you for showing up when you want to hide. Nobody may notice the little acts of bravery you perform when no one is watching. But those steps are the foundation of your rising. And one day, when the light returns, those small hidden steps will be the reason you are still standing. Do not wait until you feel strong to take a step. It is often the step itself that gives you strength. Courage is not something you wait for. It is something you practice. And with each small step, your courage multiplies. Today's trembling movement becomes tomorrow's steady stride. Even the smallest step matters because movement itself is a declaration. I will not stay where I am. I refuse to give up. I choose life, even when it hurts. That choice, repeated day after day, is how brokenness slowly becomes strength. You may not be able to rebuild everything at once. You may not be able to heal every part of yourself immediately, but you can begin. And that beginning, however small, holds more power than you realize. Think of the first crack in the soil when a seed begins to push upward. That crack may look fragile, but it holds the promise of an entire tree. Think of the first word spoken after silence, the first step taken after stumbling, the first smile after sorrow. These are not small things. They are sacred beginnings. When you choose small steps, you also give yourself permission to be human. You let go of the crushing expectation to be perfect, to be whole, to be unshaken. You say to yourself, it is enough that I moved today. It is enough that I breathed today. It is enough that I tried, and that grace is what allows you to keep going. Do not despise the day of small steps. Do not belittle the moments that look ordinary. A brick laid today, another tomorrow, another the next day. That is how walls are built. A word written today, another tomorrow. That is how books are born. A prayer whispered today, another tomorrow. That is how faith grows. The extraordinary is always built upon the ordinary. And if you ever doubt that your small steps matter, look back. Look at where you once were and where you stand now. What felt unbearable before is now behind you. What once broke you no longer holds you. That progress was not the result of one giant leap, but of countless small steps that carried you forward even when you didn't notice. So when life falls apart, do not try to run. Do not demand the impossible of yourself. Begin where you are. Move in small ways. Trust the power of persistence. And in time, you will find that the very steps you thought were too small to matter became the bridge that carried you from brokenness to strength. When life breaks you, when betrayal pierces you, when circumstances feel cruel and unfair, there is a shadow that creeps in quietly, almost unnoticed. That shadow is bitterness. It whispers that you are justified in holding on to anger. It convinces you that replaying the hurt will protect you from being hurt again. It tells you that if you keep the wound open, you will somehow regain control over what was lost. But bitterness is not protection. Bitterness is poison. And if you allow it to take root in your soul, it will choke the very life you are trying so desperately to preserve. Bitterness begins as a seed. Someone's words cut too deep. Someone's betrayal tore too wide. Someone's absence left a silence too heavy. That seed enters quietly, unnoticed at first. You replay the offense in your mind, you dwell on the injustice, and little by little, the seed begins to grow. Roots sink deep into your spirit, wrapping themselves around your joy, stealing your peace, strangling your hope, until one day you no longer recognize yourself. The wound has become your identity. It is tempting to nurture bitterness because it feels powerful. Anger can feel like fire in your bones, a source of energy when you feel powerless. But that fire does not heal you. It consumes you. What starts as strength becomes shackles. The person who hurt you may walk free, but you remain chained, not by what they did, but by the bitterness you refuse to release. That is the great lie of bitterness. It convinces you that you are holding on to justice, when in truth, it is holding on to you. Refusing bitterness does not mean pretending the pain didn't happen. It does not mean minimizing the wound or excusing the wrong. It means choosing not to let that wrong become the author of your future. It means saying, I acknowledge what happened, I feel the sting of it, but I will not let it define me, I will not let it rot my soul. Forgiveness is not weakness. Forgiveness is strength. It takes courage to release anger when it feels justified. It takes power to set yourself free from the chains of resentment. When bitterness takes root, it blinds you. It makes you see every new moment through the lens of the old pain. It robs you of new joy because you are still living inside the shadow of yesterday's wound. But when you refuse bitterness, when you choose to release it, you clear space in your heart for new life to enter. You make room for love again. You open the door for peace to return. Do not mistake bitterness for memory. You can remember without being consumed. You can carry the lessons of the past without letting them poison your future. Memory gives wisdom, but bitterness distorts vision. One sharpens you, the other blinds you. And when life has already taken so much, why give it your peace too? There is power in saying, yes, I was wronged, but I will not let that wrong own me. There is freedom in declaring what they did will not determine who I am becoming. Forgiveness is not about the person who hurt you. It is about the person you are becoming. It is about releasing the toxin before it kills your spirit. Some of the most radiant souls you will ever meet are those who have endured the deepest betrayals yet chose to walk free of bitterness. They have scars, yes, but their scars shine instead of bleed. They do not carry poison, they carry wisdom. They do not radiate anger, They radiate grace. They are proof that you do not have to let what broke you continue to break you. You can rise above it. This does not mean forgiveness is easy. It does not mean the anger will vanish overnight. Sometimes you will need to release bitterness again and again, day after day, breath after breath, until the chains fall away. But every time you choose release over resentment, you reclaim a piece of yourself. Every time you resist bitterness, you take back your freedom. Imagine your heart as a garden. What you plant there will grow. Plant bitterness and thorns will spread, choking out every flower. Plant forgiveness and peace will bloom, even in the soil of sorrow. You cannot always choose what seeds fall into your garden. Life may throw betrayal, loss, and disappointment into your soil. But you can choose which ones you water. Do not water bitterness. Do not nurture resentment. Pour your care instead into hope, into love, into peace. Those are the seeds that will give you life again. The world will give you 1,000 reasons to be bitter. People will disappoint you. Circumstances will frustrate you. Life will test you, but you are not powerless. You hold within you the choice to rise above, to release, to guard your spirit from poison. And though it may feel unfair that you must do the hard work of release when others cause the wound, understand this: release is not for them, it is for you. You deserve to be free. You deserve to heal. You deserve to live unchained. So when the whispers of bitterness come, and they will, do not listen. When the temptation to dwell, to replay, to stew in anger comes, and it will, choose release, choose peace, choose freedom, because life is too short and your soul too precious to let bitterness take root where love and strength were meant to grow. When life falls apart, it is easy to believe that you must carry the weight of your sorrow alone. You tell yourself no one will understand, no one will care, no one can truly help, and so you retreat into silence, into isolation, into the shadows of your own pain. But no one heals in complete solitude. Even the strongest souls need the warmth of others to remind them of their light when their own flame begins to flicker. Strength does not mean walking alone. Strength is knowing who to walk with. The people you allow into your life shape the way you rise after you fall. Some will drain you, pulling you deeper into despair with their words of doubt, their habits of negativity, their refusal to believe in your healing. Others will lift you, speaking courage into your wounds, reminding you of who you are when you forget, sitting with you in silence until your strength returns. The difference is everything, because in the fragile season of rebuilding, your soul is fertile ground. What is planted there will grow. Plant discouragement, and despair deepens. Plant encouragement, and hope begins to bloom again. When your life is broken, you must be intentional about the company you keep. Choose those who see beyond your pain. Choose those who can look at your scars and still see your beauty. Choose those who believe in your rising, even when you don't. These are the souls that lift you, the ones who refuse to let you drown in bitterness or despair. They will hold your hand when you cannot walk. They will whisper hope when your voice is gone. They will remind you that the story is not over. Think of a bird learning to fly. At first, it trembles at the edge of the branch, afraid to leap. But what gives it courage is not its own wings alone. It is the sight of other birds soaring in the sky. In the same way, when you are afraid, when your faith is trembling, seeing others who have risen, hearing voices that believe in you, can give you the courage to spread your wings again. Do not underestimate the power of presence. Sometimes you do not need someone to fix your problems or offer perfect words. You need someone willing to sit beside you in the silence of your pain, to share the weight of your sorrow, to be a reminder that you are not invisible, not forgotten, not alone. That presence itself can be the difference between despair and hope. But just as you must welcome souls that lift you, you must also release those who pull you down. It is not cruelty to step away from people who feed your wounds instead of your healing. Some voices thrive on gossip, on negativity, on keeping you chained to your past. Some companions cannot walk with you into your future because they are committed to your yesterday. You cannot rise if you are tied to the anchors of those who refuse to believe in your growth. Surround yourself with people who see possibility in you, not just problems. With people who speak life into your dreams, not death. With people who remind you of your strength, not your weakness. With people who can sit with you in tears, but also laugh with you in joy. This is not about needing a crowd. It is about needing the right few. Even one soul who truly believes in you can make all the difference. Remember this, even the strongest oak began as a seed supported by soil, water, and sunlight. Nothing grows alone, and you are no exception. You need voices of encouragement like sunlight. You need the compassion of others like water. You need the grounding presence of people who keep you rooted when the winds try to blow you over. These are not luxuries. They are necessities for healing. And as you surround yourself with souls that lift you, you will find your own spirit growing lighter, your steps growing stronger. Their hope will awaken your hope. Their strength will remind you of your strength. Their faith will steady your trembling. And when you rise, you too will become that lifting soul for someone else, passing forward the light you once received. There is no shame in needing others. Humanity was never designed for isolation. Even the brightest stars shine more beautifully when surrounded by constellations. Even the most powerful rivers flow stronger when joined by tributaries. Your healing, your rising, your strength, it is magnified in community. So open your heart to those who lift you. Let them pour encouragement into your weary soul. Let them remind you that your story is not over. Let them sit with you in the quiet, walk with you in the darkness, celebrate with you when the light returns. And in time, you will look back and realize you were never as alone as you thought. When something breaks inside you, it feels final. A relationship ends, a dream dissolves, a future you trusted suddenly vanishes, and all that is left is silence and shards. You look at the pieces of your life scattered at your feet and wonder if you will ever be whole again. The instinct is to see brokenness as the end, as proof that nothing good can be built from what remains. But brokenness is not the end of beauty. It can be the birthplace of it. Out of the cracks, out of the wounds, out of the ashes, something new, something stronger, something radiant can emerge. Think of the earth after a storm. Trees may fall, fields may flood, the ground may look ruined. But when the sun returns, the soil, broken and turned, becomes the richest place for new life to grow. Flowers bloom where destruction once reigned. Beauty rises not in spite of the storm, but because of it. Your soul is no different. What feels like devastation today can become the very ground where resilience, wisdom, and depth of spirit take root. We are taught to fear brokenness, to hide it, to cover it up, to pretend our lives are still whole when they are not. But wholeness is not the absence of cracks. Wholeness is what happens when you learn to let the light shine through them. The Japanese art of kintsugi teaches this truth. When pottery breaks, it is not thrown away. Instead, it is repaired with gold, making the cracks not something to hide, but something to highlight. The broken vessel becomes even more valuable than it was before because its history, its scars, its mending make it unique, make it beautiful. And so it is with you. Your brokenness, when embraced and healed, becomes the very thing that makes you radiant. Do not despise your scars. They are not proof of defeat, but of survival. Every scar tells a story, and your story matters. The broken heart tells of a love that was real. The scarred soul tells of a battle fought and endured. The weary eyes tell of nights you refused to give up. These marks are not shame, they are testament. They say, I lived, I endured, I am still here. And there is a beauty in that resilience that untouched perfection could never hold. It is often in brokenness that we discover our true selves. When everything is stripped away, when the masks fall off, when the illusions dissolve, you are left with the raw, unfiltered truth of who you are. And in that truth lies power. You see your strength not because you avoided breaking, but because you survived it. You see your courage not because you never fell, but because you rose again. You see your capacity to love, to forgive, to create, to hope, not because life was easy, but because it was hard and you endured. The world needs your brokenness turned into beauty. Someone else is watching, someone else is carrying pain, someone else is wondering if survival is possible. When they see your scars, when they hear your story, when they watch you stand tall after falling, they will see a reflection of their own potential to rise. Your brokenness can become another person's hope. Your cracks can become another person's light. Beauty born of brokenness is deeper than surface beauty. It carries weight, it carries meaning, it carries authenticity. A face that has never cried cannot carry the same depth of compassion as one that has. A life that has never fallen cannot carry the same wisdom as one that has been shattered and rebuilt. You may not have chosen your breaking, but you can choose what is born from it. And if you choose to let it, your brokenness will birth empathy, creativity, resilience, and a strength you never imagined. There will be voices that tell you broken things have no worth, that you are less because of your wounds, that you cannot be whole again. Do not listen. Brokenness is not the end. It is the turning point. What seems like loss may be a clearing for something greater. What seems like failure may be the foundation of your future. What seems like the end may be the doorway to a new beginning. And even when you cannot yet see the beauty, even when the pain is too fresh, trust that it is forming. Healing is not instant. Transformation is not immediate. The seed does not sprout the moment it is buried. But in the hidden soil, life is already stirring. Your beauty is already being born in the dark. One day you will look back and realize the cracks you despised were the very places where grace entered, where light flowed, where strength was born. You are not broken beyond repair. You are being remade. You are being shaped. You are being refined. The fire you thought would destroy you is forging you into something stronger. The wound you thought would end you is teaching you how to love deeper. The loss you thought would empty you is opening space for new beginnings. What broke you can also bless you if you dare to believe in the beauty that waits on the other side. So hold on to this truth. Brokenness is not the end of your story. It may be the hardest chapter, the one that makes you weep, the one that feels unbearable, but it is not the last chapter. If you keep turning the pages, if you keep walking forward, you will see that what fell apart was not the end of you. It was the beginning of a new becoming. And the beauty that will rise from your brokenness will not only heal you, it will shine as hope for others who are still in the dark. So when life falls apart, do not believe for a moment that you are finished. You are not the ruin. You are the rebuilder. You are not the ending. You are the continuation. The storm may bend you, but it cannot break the spirit that dares to rise again. Hold on even when your hands shake. Walk on even when the path is dark. Speak hope even when your voice trembles, because the world needs your story, your strength, your rising. And remember, falling apart is not the end. It is the beginning of a new becoming.